welcome to Carville. I am with you with Miss Jenny Fall. She is an artist in Laurel, Mississippi. She is originally from Maryland.
Yes.
And she moved down here. She is an artist. Miss Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I did grow up in Maryland. I've been in the South for a couple decades now, and I lived in New Orleans most recently up until 2017, and I wanted to get my parents to come down so I could help them in their retirement, not move back up to the cold north. And so I prayed a lot about going to Mississippi, finding a place in the country, because we grew up in the country and they're not city people, and God answered that prayer. So He gave me a beautiful place in the country here, and we can share our faith openly, which is a lot different from a lot of the northern states.
Yes.
And they love it here. And my mom did recently pass away, but she wished she had come down sooner. So God just answered that prayer in a big way while I was fixing up my house in New Orleans for 6 months to sell. I was looking online, all of the houses and things, but a couple weeks before I was ready to put it on the market, He put this house on the market, and I asked Him to hold it, please, please. And He did, and He allowed me to close on my house in New Orleans and buy this one at the same time without a mortgage, praise the Lord, and move here, and I really have enjoyed it ever since.
It's amazing how God works,
He
isn't
does,
it?
He does.
God works. She's going to be painting today.
Mm-hmm.
Describe what you're painting. It's license plates, recycled license plates.
Yeah. And
What are you painting today?
I am painting some, this is a Confederate rose bush in my backyard that bloomed a lot during the summertime, and so I just save these in my phone and I print them out for references. Magnolias, of course, would be really popular. I didn't have any pictures of magnolias, so
Yeah.
I decided to go for the Confederate rose.
Put it up there with you. There you go.
Lock in the color with the greens, and I will start doing some darker colors in the background. What you want to do with oil painting, and that's what I really like to do, is you do the dark colors first. And so if it's going to be lighter in front of that, you can always put light on top of it or around it, but you want to get those dark colors in. So I did the greens first, and then I did the sky, and then I did the whites and the lighter colors and the pinks. So those are just blocks of color, and so you want to save the light colors as like icing for last.
Yes, for last. That makes complete
And
sense.
it makes everything pop, and you want to have some good contrast in there. So it will be green, but I'm going to add different colors of green to make it more realistic. And that's what nature is. There's all different colors of green out there. There's not just one color.
All right, well, we are going to let her start painting, and I'm going to move out of the way.
All right. Okay. So I have my paints up there. I like to use a palette knife to mix my colors. That way you're not mixing with your brush, getting it all muddy and full of paint before you actually get the right color that you want. So with the greens, I'll take some blue, some yellow, and then mix them together. That's how I got my dark green yesterday. And I also will put a little bit of orange in there to tone it down from that vivid green. And this is what I do in a lot of colors, like the sky. If I used straight white and straight blue, it would be like neon blue, which is not typically what you see outside. So you do need to add a little bit of something to gray it out sometimes. Sometimes you do have that vivid blue sky and you can use straight colors, but it's very rare really. And so I will use a bit of orange or another color, and to lighten it up, I'm going to put some more yellow in here. Now if you had like a mint green plant, you would be adding white. This one is not so mint. I'm going to go off of some of these bright highlights on the leaves. So I'm just going to add some more yellow here. I think that'll turn out pretty good. Gonna rinse them out all.
Did they teach you about the colors in school, or did you kind of?
They did.
Okay.
It's really good if you want to understand colors, to take a color theory class. Some beginning painting classes will offer a little bit of that, but they'll have a whole class on colors. And you'll start out by painting a color wheel and just really understanding light and colors and hues and saturation. These are all terms that describe color, and it's really useful because then you'll understand better how to to mix. Like when I was first starting, even though I don't think I took a color theory class, I think I learned it later, but if you're just starting painting, you'll go through a lot of paint trying to get the right color.
Yeah.
And so that will spare you a lot of paint and frustration sometimes if you take a color theory class. And so what I'm probably going to do here is just wing it and add some leaves. You can be very detailed in your drawing or not as detailed. I like to be a little bit loose. A lot of my paintings, when I'm painting buildings and landscapes, they have to be, buildings definitely, you want to get them straight. But you can, there is a looseness that you can learn after a while. And so I'm just adding some leaves here and there. And I'm going to add different colors of green so it'll just look more natural later. And one thing, it's not found in nature too much, but I do like to add gold sometimes. Gold really pops. And so I'm just going to add some stems here.
It gives you like a highlight.
It does, it does. But you can see, like, when the sun is setting and the trees are, the sun is behind the trees, you can see some light behind them and it kind of like rims the trees and it does look like gold. So I won't say that it's completely not there, but this is easier today to add these lighter colors because the green has dried. I actually put a heater on them last night. If it's wet, it will blend more, and because yellow is one of the slowest drying paints.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes. In oil paints, I'm not sure whether it's the cadmium or just the way they mix it. It's just really slow drying, and actually it's a benefit. I used to, instead of cleaning out my brushes, I would clean them with turpentine or the odorless thinner, but then I would freeze them in yellow paint. So I had brushes in my freezer, and that's a trick that some artists use to avoid cleaning them out with soap and water, and I think the brushes actually last longer if you don't use soap and water. So
Well, yep, because I've always used soap water on mine, so now I know not to do that.
yeah, well,
I learned something today.
well, soap and water
Come on,
is
baby.
necessary if you have water-based, because you don't want to be putting oil or any kinds of oils on your water-based brushes. It's really hard to get that out and go back to using water-based. So I'm just going to add a few more things of this color, and then maybe, and sometimes it is hard to get over these embossed letters on the license plates, but it doesn't have to be exact. That's the thing, that's the fun thing about license plates. It's, you know what it is when you look at it, but it's like, hey, you can do this even on an uneven surface. And so sometimes I will add like a ridge of paint where I want it to be a little more dramatic, and the highlights and things like that, and they call that impastado, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure. And so it just takes a while to let that dry. Once it's dry, my final touch on these will be to, and it might take a couple weeks to a month to let it dry, is to go over it with a clear coat, and that'll protect everything. And the thing about oil is it's surprisingly durable. I have a friend who's a motorcycle enthusiast, and he asked me to paint a gas tank for his new motorcycle. He's making a chopper.
Oh, man.
And he wanted an open Bible on one side, a closed Bible on the other, and the American flag draped over everything. I did it in oil because oil is what I know best. And so it turned out great. He hasn't gotten the whole bike together, but he liked it a lot. So
That's
I
awesome.
just spent a couple weeks doing that. I mean, really probably only about 4 or 5 days. And so now I can take this color and add a little more yellow, even more, to lighten it up and put some even lighter highlights in the green. And I like to keep a roll of paper towels here, and I can use the same brush, or I can get a smaller one if you want, and just, you can see, I think it needs a little more yellow. And once you paint a little bit, you'll have, get an idea of how to mix things and just have fun with it. And I'm going to try to go back and look at the shape of these leaves. Sometimes you can use the edge of your brush just to put like a vein in the leaf, or a highlight. And I never have done more than one at the same time, but now I think I'm going to try this, because if it turns out that this is a popular design, then I'll kind of have maximized my time. But you never really know how it's going to turn out. That's the thing. I would say I like oils best because you can paint over them very easily. I mean, wipe it off and start all over. If I didn't like this and it was all wet, I would just take my rag, wipe that off first, and then go back with some thinner, and then I'd have this again. And so with acrylic, with watercolor, you can't really do that. So I love how forgivable everything is. Confederate rose, I didn't really know this species of plant before I moved here, but the previous owner, or the one who originally built this property, planted it, and it'll start out with white flowers like this, and as they die you can start to see the pink around it, and then the pink in the dead flowers, and I just think it's amazing. I've never seen flowers change color like that, and within a day to 2 days you'll have this after you have that white flower. So I think I like it a lot because with my mom dying this year, it tells you how temporary our lives here on earth are.
Yes.
And we have this time to bloom and do our work for God, and we need to make the most of it. I mean, The Bible says to number our days. Teach us, Lord, to number our days. And I have been given such a purpose to glorify Him and to tell other people about Him that there's really not enough time in the day, enough time in the week. And I know you know that.
Yes.
With your new ministry.
Time goes by so fast. Mm-hmm. And we look up and we're thinking, did we make the most of what God gave us?
Exactly.
And I'm learning that as the older I get.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like the older I've always heard my grandmother say the older you get, the faster your time goes. That is so true.
It is.
So very true.
It is. Okay, so now I am going to get into the icing. I like to call it the icing. Those bright highlights around the flowers themselves, and now you can hopefully see it really pop. So I'm using this one to paint this one, and you can see there's some bright edges around this flower right there. If you don't think, I like to use as big of brushes as I can, and so you save these really really bright white colors for the very end, and that's what makes it look, even if it's not exact, it's gonna give it that highlight that makes it look like there's light on it. So I have some in here, and so that's why I mixed so many colors in yesterday into this color, because I saw into this flower, I saw pinks around the edges, I see green coming through the leaves themselves. And so you can do that as a background and then add the highlights. If you need to, you can use a smaller brush, but I was taught that you should learn, and it's a skill, to paint with as big a brush as you can. And these are a little bit more complicated than the magnolia. I could have picked a magnolia and been a little bit easier on myself.
That wouldn't have been as fun though.
I know. And the thing about this place in my house, it's not a real studio. It's just part of my sunroom, and it does face west and south. So normally artists like to have a north facing with a nice even light and everything, but I don't have that right now. I could take one of my bedrooms and make it a studio, but I haven't done that yet. I'm almost done with this flower. I might go back and blend it a little bit more. I'm gonna add, this one has more light on it, so this is nice if you, these leaves have a lot of frilliness around the edge, so you don't have to be exact. And they would make great, I think, great arrangement if they didn't die so quickly. They
Yeah.
died within 2 days on the bush, so obviously they're not going to last too long inside.
This is such a great idea to reuse license
Yeah.
plates.
Everybody has like an old license plate in their garage, unless you're super tidy, which I'm not. I save everything. I love to repurpose furniture and other materials.
I've come to realize that most creative people
Mhm.
are like that. I know I am. I save everything because I'm like, I can make something with that,
Right?
you know.
Yep.
And never throw out a good piece of cardboard. Just
Oh
saying.
no.
It's getting those pretty highlights on there.
Yes, and you can go back and fix your edges if you need to later, but just be loose with it. Though actually the paintings that I admire the most, and this just comes with practice, are the ones that don't have a lot of preparation, a lot of color in the lines, because I could draw this out very detailed and then paint it exactly, but it's not something I'm trying to do. I like to paint plein air too when I can. I haven't done that in a while, so now I'm going to just do this little flower over here, put some edges on it. I think if I had to do everything over again, I would learn how to arrange flowers. I don't know, I just love flowers.
I do too. I've got to tell my husband to buy me plants though, because I get sad when they die. Like he brings me a
Oh, yeah.
bouquet. Like, just bring me a plant. I can plant it and then they bloom every year.
That's so funny.
So
My
he started
mom-
doing that.
Yes, my mom would be the same. Actually, when we had her memorial service, she wanted donations for the church, and she never wanted those big arrangements. So I think it's hard for some people to understand that. It's a way of, showing respect, but she just wanted things that would live on,
Yep. That's how I am.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, that's looking better. All right, and I might go back and just tone this white down a little bit. And when you're painting, you kind of want to make sure that you're not reusing the same brush without washing it out for too long, because the colors will start to get muddy. And so, let's see, I'm going to add some more white in here. I will just use my brush for that. A little bit more yellow than I wanted. Okay. And if you don't get the color just right on these flowers or on the license plate, I don't think it's a big deal, because as long as it's pretty harmonious, it's not gonna make, and it looks like it could be coming from nature. I'm just trying to lighten up this flower. And that's the thing, there's lots of layers of color.
Gives it depth, right?
Yes. Now, with oil paint, it's a bit more opaque than watercolor. Gouache is kind of more opaque as well. But so you can do one layer of oil paint, but several layers is better because you can get different colors in there.
Which in turn, that gives it the definition?
Mm-hmm. Definition and just more realism.
You do a lot of go out and take pictures of things and then bring it back in and
yes.
kind of watch them and look. Do you do animal? Well, besides your cows, I see the cows. Did you take a picture of the field and do the cows?
I did, yes. If I see like I like nature, but a lot of it doesn't pop as much as I'd like. So you can use different filters on your favorite pictures, and then you get something real that you really want to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make it more natural, more vibrant, whatever you want to do. Cell phones have been great for me.
Oh, yeah.
My phone is full of so many pictures. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to do the center of the flowers. And don't worry about putting a lot of paint out because oil paint doesn't dry very fast. If you need to, you could put some saran wrap over it and preserve it for a couple days. But especially this yellow, it's going to last for weeks and it's not going to harden up too much. So I'm going to get a lot on my brush here so I could just make some peaks of color in there. We had so many honeybees around them. I loved it. I mean, when I was taking these pictures, a lot of them, not these, but you'll see the honeybees in the picture. And actually, I wanted to paint some with honeybees in the picture. I just didn't print any out. And I kicked myself. It was last year or the year before. We had a bad drought, and then we had some freezing. And I let my camellia tree die. Camellia, is a beautiful tree in the backyard, and oh man, I was so mad. But I told God, you know, if you would resurrect that camellia tree for me, that would be a huge miracle in my life. Because, and I'm not asking for any signs or anything, but I would know it was God because
Did you specifically?
I specifically asked that camellia tree would come back to life, and He can do it for sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to put some bright highlights around this little guy, and then maybe a stem, like a stem here and there.
Have you ever taught art classes and all that?
I've taught children, and I have taught adults in private lessons. Sometimes at other churches I have given like a group lesson, and it's a lot of fun.
I bet.
You know,
It doesn't feel like a job when you love it. So.
no, it's just getting people past their fear of messing up. And that's a great thing. If I do oil, I can show them, hey, you're not going to mess up, because if you're not happy with it, you just go and you wipe it off and start again. And you can paint over it. It's so forgiving.
You know, I think that's a lesson in life too, because I think sometimes we don't try new things, not just painting, but because we're scared of failure or we don't think we're good enough, or
Right.
But we all need to open up and realize, you know, that everybody has a purpose and anybody can be used. Look at the Bible. So
Oh my
God
gosh.
can use anyone.
Yes. A friend of mine, my sister in Christ, we do jail ministry, women's jail ministry every other week at the local jail, and if I could bring my paints in there, I would definitely. But it's just giving encouragement because you're starting over. You have this chance where God has sat you down for an undetermined amount of time, and it's a lot longer than a lot of people would want sometimes.
He put you in timeout.
Yes, you're in timeout, but it's for your good. It's for His glory, and He is going to make something beautiful out of it. You have a purpose, and you know, you just have to talk to God about it. You have to talk to Him. You have to start those good habits of communication like you would with any other person. If you really want to know what's best for you and why He has you there, you have to get strong in order to resist the temptations that you came out of.
Yes.
And there's so many of us that we have sinned as much as anyone in jail, but we haven't gotten caught.
Absolutely.
And I have, you know, things that I'm not proud of, but God, through His grace, I didn't end up in jail or in bad situations. And I just have to, you know, give that same grace to everybody who's trying to get out of those patterns.
Yep. I've also felt it when I was a baby Christian. I would feel like if I couldn't feel Him, He wasn't there. Because, you know, you'll be sitting in church and you're singing and you feel Him. You feel it all around you. But yet the next day you feel nothing. But that's whenever He pulls away, because He wants you to seek Him out.
This is true.
And a lot of times I think when He puts people in time out, you know, He wants you to search for Him and lean for Him. And because it's free will, you have to want to search that out. And I really think sometimes that's why He pulls back a little bit.
Yes.
So that we have to kind of seek Him out.
It's a lifelong lesson. It's learning to walk and to be worthy of our calling. And that, I could say definitely, that is definitely one of my main goals, is to walk in a manner that's worthy of my calling. He's put me in different people's lives and put different people in my life for that reason, to grow us. And
I know, I told you earlier, I think before we started recording, that this just kind of fell in my lap.
mm-hmm.
And God opened so many doors, and the people that I've met that are Christians that are like-minded. You know, you want to be
Mm-hmm.
around people that are evenly yoked.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for that.
Yes.
I'm so very thankful for that. And it's amazing.
Yes. And I'm not too afraid to admit I'm divorced.
So am I. I was divorced and remarried.
Yep.
So.
Was looking for that human companionship for a long time, and God has just shown me so much better with what He's been able to provide for me, and so He's just given me a peace and contentment that I never had before as a young person.
Because God was enough.
God is enough.
Yep.
He is, for sure. Yep. And they just crumple up, and they're a beautiful color even when they're dead.
How did you come up with this idea before we close out? Because I was going to ask you that earlier and forgot.
I guess I've seen people use license plates for different things, bird houses, and framed on the wall just as they are. But I like to paint on different things. Someone had given me a big food platter for Thanksgiving, and after a few years, it actually just cracked right in half. I don't know whether I put it in the dishwasher or not, but I was like, that's too perfect not to throw away, or to throw away. So I took both halves, I kind of sanded down the sharp edges off of them, and I painted on them, put a birds on both of them, a swan on one and a heron on the other. I sold the heron recently, but I like to paint on repurposed things. I had some reclaimed hardwood from New Orleans I've used in my house, and some of the leftovers I put together into a piece of board, which I painted on. I go out in the lake, and I don't paint on these things yet, but I find driftwood.
You let them dry out?
I actually collect them for my dad, who uses them for his decoy mounts. So I'll show you some of those later, and it's so much fun. I love to kayak. It's one of the most peaceful things you could do.
It's very peaceful here.
It is. And the people of Laurel are just so kind, and I love it here.
It's the Southern hospitality.
Yes. I think people and my family who visit from up north are just so amazed at the hospitality and the openness and the love that they're shown here. So I love it. All right. Well, I think I could probably add some more color in the background. I could go over the sky again, but it's definitely almost a finished piece here. So
You did an amazing job.
thank you.
You're very,
Thank
very
you.
talented.
I praise God in whatever opportunities I've had. So
Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you,
today.
Dawn.
We will see you again. To God be the glory. And what is
Amen.
your what is there one Bible verse that you want to close this out with?
yes, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And that's in the beginning of Psalm 27. I just have gotten over a lot of fears in my life, and I hope that our viewers do too. God can do anything, and He wants you to trust Him.
Amen. And with that, we will see you next Saturday.